So, it's been a few minutes since I've posted on here. For those that have been following me and Abby, you know that we've kind of put a lot of our focus here recently into our mental health Mondays and seminars and the stuff we've been doing with South Tacoma Assembly of God. For those that have been following us and watching those videos, we greatly appreciate it and we love you and we thank you, not just for that, but just for the impact that you've had in our life and the place that you play in our life. We've really enjoyed those Mental Health Monday videos and our seminars and even our live once a month our live Q&As that we do. If you haven't haven't seen those videos, go over to staog.org. You'll find under you'll actually find a picture of my face, or even just go to Facebook or Instagram, look up South Tacoma Assembly of God, or even Emmaus Ministries NW, and you'll find those videos and the work that we've done with South Tacoma. I encourage you. We talk about things like depression and anxiety and how we operate within the church with those, because we are facing major mental health issues in this country. I mean, coming out of COVID in the last 3 years have been really trying for so many people. It's great that it's raised the awareness of mental health and the need for mental health, but it's also a tragedy on the other side because people are now noticing why, because there's such a massive, massive need for it. And as the church, as someone who has the title of pastor, as a pastoral counselor, I can tell you the need is massive, and more as society is going down the path we're going down right now, the church needs to step up and needs to become an influence for good when not just mental health, but in general. We need people of high character in our workplaces, in our homes, in our communities, and especially in our churches. We need to be high character. So, I haven't come to you from my home office in a while, and I felt like this was the time to put together not just this video, but I have a series of videos that are coming after this that I'll be releasing on some things that just really I felt necessary to discuss in this forum. Listen, you go on TV in the morning, you pull your phone out, you go on social media. It doesn't take long for you to find we are in a different world. What was previously accepted is no longer accepted. What was indisputable is now disputed. Things we thought we knew, we're now being told that we never knew. And everything is up for question. Even who do we trust? I mean, I remember growing up, you had on the news, you had, Ted Koppel and Peter Jennings and Walter Cronkite, that these men who looked and sounded like your grandfather and you just felt you could trust. Where are those journalists today? Because I don't think any of us trust anything that's coming out of the media. We have such a distrust going on that who do we trust? Everyone seems to have an agenda. I look around and I realize that if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling angry, if I'm questioning what am I supposed to do, then everyone else probably feels the same way. So I wanted to take some time to talk about some of the craziness that is going on in America and how should we proceed? What is our next steps? We know that the Bible tells us that in the end times, which I think we're getting closer to, I haven't been the biggest proponent, but it's hard to dispute some of the things that are coming. I'm not saying that Jesus is coming back tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that we are told that in the end times, what is called evil, what is evil will be called good, and what's good will be called evil. And we are seeing this today. We are seeing things that were once acceptable or once understood are being questioned. Great example of this is gender. Okay? We're not even talking gay rights. We're not talking gay marriage. We're just talking gender. Okay? Now, from the Christian worldview, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created man. It's not good for man to be alone, so God creates woman and tells man and woman to be fruitful and multiply and populate the earth, to have dominion of the earth and to populate. Male, female. We go to Moses, or not Moses, go to Noah and the ark. One of each species. Male, female. Why? Because you need a male and a female to recreate, to procreate, right? You can't have a baby without a sperm and without an egg. But this is now something that is being called into question. That it's, you no longer have just two genders because of choice. Now, you can't choose to be born, and you can't choose to be male or female, but now we're being told that what was previously understood, that you go to the bathroom and you have male or female. You don't have male or female or pansexual or metrosexual or any of these other things. One or the other. And we're being told that the binary understanding that we've had is incorrect. What was previously understood is now questioned. So much so that even I just heard 2 plus 2 equals 4. We were taught this from the time we were in first, second grade. Now, some college professors saying that, oh no, 2 plus 2 may not equal 4. It might actually be 5 or 7 or 23 or who knows, because there could be more than one option. So now, but Sesame Street told me 1, ha ha ha, 2, ha ha ha, 3, ha, 4, ha ha. I take 2 and I add 2. I get 4. I have 4 fingers right here, not 12. That's indisputable. But now we're being told that it's disputable because it could be. This is the world we live in, where what's previously been understood and been indisputable is now disputed. That we can now question male or female. This is just the reality that we're in. And me questioning this, me bringing this out, many of you have probably already turned this off. Or you might even be commenting and calling me a transgender phobic. But the reality is, what was previously understood is no longer understood that way. And as a Christian in a world that is increasingly being attacked, let's talk about transgender just a little bit more a second. We just had in the state of Tennessee 6 individuals, 3 children, murdered in cold blood by a transgender individual at a Christian school. And the leaders of this country come out and talk about the transgender visibility and the attacks on transgender. Forget the 6 Christian men and women and children that were murdered by a transgender individual. Forget those individuals. The Christian doesn't matter is what they're saying. But the individual who made the choice to get the gun and shoot the children is the victim. This is asinine. Okay? But as a Christian, this is a world that we are living in, that we have to be understanding that the world is now increasingly against us. As a Christian who has grown up in this nation, I've been blessed to grow up in a nation that was once the greatest Christian nation in the world. But here's the reality of the situation. We are no longer a Christian nation. We are post-Christian. And everything in our society, in America, in Western society, is built to push against and persecute the Christian mindset, worldview, understanding more and more every day. So this means as a Christian, we're going to be under attack more and more and more for our beliefs. What was once accepted Christian belief is now being questioned and persecuted. You know, what was once the norm, Merry Christmas, Happy Easter, God bless you, is now being viewed as evil, as wrong. But this is what we're walking into. We're walking into a situation where you're going to have to fight for your faith. You're going to have to stand strong. You're going to have to be resilient. You're going to have to be like the examples you see in the New Testament and in the Old Testament of those standing for their faith. The early church was martyred for their faith. And I remember being given Fox's Book of Martyrs as a graduation gift when I graduated from high school, and reading through all these individuals who were martyred for their faith. The reality of the situation is today, you're probably going to be able to write another book like that because martyrdom might be coming to this country with the way it's going. We didn't have to worry about being martyred for our faith in this country, but that's changing as our freedoms are being taken away, as our faith is being challenged. I mean, in fact, the country just recently at Walter Reed Medical Center removed Catholic and pastoral care from their offerings. They've given it to a secular group to say, okay, you're going to take care of spiritual care. A secular group is not taking care of spiritual care. This is where we're at. Okay? But if we look at the Bible, the reality is the Bible is written to Christians and the church to operate in a society that is opposed to them. Now, don't forget the New Testament, everything Jesus says is written in the context of opposition to his teaching. The Romans were not in favor of Jesus. The Pharisees and the Sadducees were opposed to Jesus. And coming out of Jesus' message after he lives, he dies, he resurrects, he goes back to heaven, and he gives the Great Commission. We see the apostles and the early church fathers martyred for their faith because the church was, or the society was against them. This is the context in which our Bible is written. So you have to understand that we've been blessed as Americans to live in a country where we didn't have to defend our faith. Those days are over. We now need to rise up, take up our authority as Christians, Christian men and women, stand for our faith, profess our faith, and we'll talk about being the light in one of my later videos. We're going to talk about being the light and what that means. You know, we're going to talk about building the character that we need to have moving forward. See, here's the thing is that, and I told Abby this the other day, I feel like we are passengers on the Titanic. Time travelers who have gone back and are on the Titanic. We know it's going to hit the iceberg. We've given warnings. The captain's been given warnings, but still won't turn the boat. And is purposely driving into the Titanic, or the iceberg. It's a sinking ship. This country right now, with our leadership and the way it's going, feels like a sinking ship. It feels like we are on the Titanic and we're watching it sink. And as passengers, there's nothing we can do about it. As Christians, we're being persecuted for saying, hey, turn the boat. We're being persecuted for saying that's not the way this is supposed to go. But this is increasingly where we're going. So what we've done in the past isn't going to work. We had our opportunity. We were a Christian nation. We were one way. We had things that were accepted. We were the most prosperous country in the world. Even 4 years ago, we had one of the strongest, if not the strongest, economy in the world. That now we're seeing we've been weakened by our leadership. So we're no longer what we were. And unfortunately, I'm going to call you out, Gen X. I'm in that Gen X millennial, that Zennial generation. I'm going to call you out. And I'm going to say, what you see today was planted by you in the way you raised your kids, in the way you lived your life, the decisions you made, the decisions that millennials, yes, I guess I'm both a Gen X and a millennial. I'm in between that spot there. The decisions you made, millennials, and the way you've lived your life and the way you're raising your kids have created this. The result of today was planted. We are reaping what was sowed years ago. So what we grew up with, what I grew up with, isn't going to work in the future. That's not the way this is going to go. Those days are past because we've missed that opportunity. Whether it's because of poor theology or laziness or whatever, it's gone. It is. And now we have to change what we're going for. We have to fight a little bit more for our faith. And you know what? That may not be a bad thing. But we now have to be better, be different, be stronger, be more resolute, more resolved. Because we are under attack. The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy the church today and the future. He's attacking today. And where's he really attacking? Most heavily? On the next generation. Okay? We see this amazing revival at Asbury with this next generation. We see them rising up. And that's great because it's absolutely necessary if the church is going to survive. You know, we were just at Carrie Job and Cody Carnes concert. And I was up front in the altar area during the closing song, which was the blessing. And this whole group of young adults and youth came forward and were worshiping. It was this amazing moment. It reminded me of when I was a teenager, full of hope, full of fervor, full of just joy. That's something that needs to be protected because it's being attacked by our education system, by our government, by our media, with things like transgenderism, with things like our financial struggles that are coming. You know, all of these attacks that are being pushed, and these things are being pushed on our young kids, our next generation, to try and silence the church and kill it for the future. You know, I heard it just said recently that anytime the enemy comes in, anytime the spirit of Babylon rises, it tries to silence the church and kill the next generation. What's society doing today? It's trying to silence the church. It's trying to kill the next generation with abortion and transgenderism, because you know what? If you don't have male and female, you can't make babies, and as a species, you're going to die if you don't make babies. So it's all under attack. So this leads me to, this is really why I'm making these videos, is looking at the state of the world around us and recognizing we need to make a change. We need to do something different. And the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back for me was I woke up this morning and I found a story that I guess it's about a year old now since this broke. But stuff has finally started come out from this individual. But what I'm talking about, I guess I should specify that first, is I read about another mega church pastor who has fallen to sexual temptation and sexual sin. Left his wife and kids, left his job at one of the fastest growing churches in America, leaves it all behind, and marries his mistress a month after his divorce is final divorces his wife and marries his mistress. And it blows my mind that this occurs, and I wish it was a isolated event. But the reality is, it's not. We have this individual. We don't have to go back that far to look at what's happened at Hillsongs, what's happened at many other churches over the last decade, that we have our leaders are under attack. Those that are supposed to be shepherding the flock are falling to this. Those that are supposed to lead and teach and have been put in a place where even Scripture says, if you are in these roles, if you are a leader, if you're a pastor, you are going to be judged at a higher level. You're held to a higher level. And they're succumbing to the temptations of the world. What's going on within the walls of our church if the pastors are doing that? I mean, it breaks my heart because, as someone myself who has gone through divorce, who has seen the damage of divorce, I hate divorce. I hated it before. I didn't want it in the first place. And I'm thankful that God has been gracious and He's brought me this amazing marriage that came after that. But I have to look at what it's done to my kids, what it's done to my stepkids, what it's done because of broken relationship. And I look at, why does this even happen? Why is it leaders are falling to this? Forget just regular devout Christians, but the leaders, the teachers are falling to this. And it breaks my heart. As someone who holds the title of pastor, it breaks my heart. Because I know that it's not just that family that's broken, it's not that relationship, it's the entire flock that now suffers. And we know that anytime the shepherd gets taken out by the wolf, it leaves the sheep pen open, and the wolf comes through and plucks apart the sheep pen. Or the sheep run away and they get hurt because the shepherd was wounded, because the shepherd made these decisions. And it's frustrating to see this. And I wish it was an isolated situation, but it's not. And for every mega church that this happens to, there is a dozen regular, everyday community church that this happens to. This cannot be the case moving forward. Whether it's as a leader of a church, like a pastor, or it's a father, or a business leader, we need to be better. We need to be stronger. And the reality is, as I thought about, okay, why is this the case? And it's this. In America especially, we love entertainment. We love to go to the movies. We love to watch sporting events. We spend a lot of money on entertainment. Going to concerts, going to movies, doing this, doing that. And church has become, at least in America, very much the same. We come to church on Sunday morning and we want to be entertained. We want a pastor that is charismatic. We want a pastor that makes us laugh, that keeps us engaged, that keeps us entertained. And you know what? Charisma is great. It gets people in. It keeps people engaged. It'll bring your numbers up. But here's the problem. Charisma without character leads to collapse. If you need proof of this, look at Mars Hill Church. Me and Abby just listened to a podcast on the rise and fall of Mars Hill, which obviously being here in Seattle was something that hits really close to home. We've known people that have gone to Mars Hill. I've worked with people who worked at Mars Hill and went to Mars Hill. I mean, it became huge. I mean, in the Seattle area, there's like nobody hasn't been affected by Mars Hill. It grew to be the first internet YouTube mega church in the world. In fact, I think it was one of the highest followed channels at one point. So it goes from very high up there, very influential, to collapsing in a decade and a half, beginning to end. Why? Because Mark Driscoll was an incredibly, incredibly charismatic individual. Still is, very charismatic. But the problem is, he didn't have the character necessary to sustain the success that he had, given the fact of the pressures that come with fame, the pressures that come with leading. And because of his charisma, some things were allowed to continue character-wise that led to hurt and destruction and the collapse of the church. And this isn't just a Mark Driscoll thing. This is a Christianity-wide thing in this country. We have people who are in positions because of charisma, not because of character. Now, we can go through and look at the Bible, and we can look at Moses wasn't picked because of his charisma. God recognized something in his character. David wasn't picked because of his charisma, because we know Saul was way more charismatic. Even Jonathan was said to be more charismatic than David. But it was the character of being a man after God's own heart that God elected David. Gideon, least likely, wasn't charismatic, but yet God chose him. We need to make sure that we are building character and assessing character more than charisma, because charisma without character leads to collapse. So if in your life you find yourself, God has told me I'm going to do this, or I have this, and you're just not there yet, let me finish, as I'm going to try and close this up here, let me finish it with this. Don't neglect or hate the season that you're in. If you are working and pushing and pursuing God, and you're just not getting the result that you feel you were promised, don't fret. Just keep walking. Think of it this way. You ever looked at a tree? You cut the tree open and you read the rings. You can tell how old a tree is by the rings inside the tree. But you can also tell how great a year was based on the distance between the rings. If there's a lot of space between those rings, man, that year was a great year. Had sunshine, had water, had lots of air. It was a great year of growth. It grew real big. It grew tall. It grew wide. But then if you look at that same tree and you see those rings are really close together, well, that's indicative that that year didn't have really great growing conditions. It was a struggle to grow because, well, there wasn't a lot of water, or there wasn't a lot of sunshine that year. Or there might have been something choking around, there might have been a vine around the tree that wasn't allowing it to grow. But yet a year still passed. So now a storm comes. The trees that fall are the ones that experience great growth, because the space in between those rings doesn't have the same strength and density as the trees that have those rings close together. Why? Because it's more dense. Because you see, when those trees go through struggles, when they go through hard times, it creates a stronger, tougher wood. The type of wood that when the wind comes, the tree will bend, but it won't break. It won't snap. Because that same year of experience is now compressed down into a strength. Imagine taking like a snowball. You take a handful of snow. Okay, this handful of snow, you can blow it away. But you take that same handful of snow and you compact it. Yeah, it's smaller, but now it's hard and can be thrown and utilized. Can't be easily blown away. It's the same thing with developing character. Okay, when we go through tough times in our life, when we don't get to where we want to get when we think we should get there, or it takes us longer, or we have to go through struggle after struggle, what it is God developing character in our life. That's God's character development. And that is absolutely what is necessary if you, myself, or anybody else is going to be a leader that the church needs today to lead in this society that is coming increasingly more and more oppositionary to us. You need to have strong character, because people are going to come after you. They're going to lie about you. They're going to attack you. You need to have a thick skin. You need to be able to withstand the storms that are coming. And in the past, the quick growing individuals who got there real quick, typically what has happened in the past, and it will happen even more in the future, is they fall because they don't have the character to stand when the trials come. So if you find yourself in a position where you're not where you want to be, or you're struggling, take heart, because it's God preparing you for what's ahead. It's easy for us to look behind and see the way things were, but we need to look forward to see the way things are and are going to be. And that, as a Christian, is going to mean you need to be strong and have a strong character foundation in which everybody else can rely on and you can build upon your life. So this is the prep for what is ahead of you. This is the prep, and this is why these next few videos they're coming out, I'm putting them out, because this is in hope of preparation, that it sparks something in you to make the changes necessary to become who you need to be to influence the world in the future. So if you've made it this long, this is the longest video I've made in a while. I hope you've made it this far. We love you. We look forward to interacting with you. Comment on this video, share it, put it out there, clip it up, put it on Instagram yourself, make reels, I don't care. Let's get this word out. Let's team together. Let's build our character. Don't worry about charisma. Let God build the charisma, but build your character first. And let's really be an influence for change and for Christ in the future. God bless. I'll see you in the next few videos.